Welcome to another episode of Focus on This, the most productive podcast on the internet, so you can banish distractions, get the right stuff done, and finally start loving Mondays. I am here, sans Marissa and Ken, as I teased last week, but don't worry, I've got help again, because it is another Nick show. I'm joined here by Kristina Proctor. Kristina, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick. Excited to be here.
Didn't that sound like so official the way I said that? Like,
it
that sounded very radio.
Yeah, it did sound very radio. After I worked in radio before.
Oh.
So it did sound radio.
Well, great. So then that's the validation that I need today.
Yeah.
But Christina, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, what you do.
Yeah, so I am a corporate dropout. I've spent the past 20 years in and around corporate jobs, and now I am a full-time executive and ADHD coach, working with professionals to really hit their big, audacious goals through habit building and goal setting in a way that's sustainable.
It's almost like this is the perfect place for you to be right now. We do like to talk about a goal around here. Just to be transparent with everybody, before the show, we were kind of floating between a couple spaces, but we will be touching on ADHD. We will be touching on just disorganization, or perhaps the identity of a planner person. It's all going to just kind of be wrapped up, and we've got 5 tips from Kristina here to help us feel like we can tackle using a planner and achieving our goals. Is that a good summary of what we're about to do?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
All right. Well, let's not waste any time, because I will waste all kinds of time. Oh, we didn't even mention, actually, you are a certified pro.
I am a certified pro. I was on the inaugural group in 2021.
For anybody who doesn't know, what is a certified pro?
A certified pro is somebody who goes through training with the full focus system as a whole. And we go through a training process to better understand how to not just use the planner, but how to coach others on how to best use the planner, as well as other tools from the full focus organization, including life focus. So it's been one of the best things that, honestly, I've done for my career and for coaching my clients.
Wow. Look at that. That was a free plug. So
you're welcome, Ken.
Yes. Ken will love that. That's true. We've got 5 tips from Kristina, the pro, on how to help us tackle our disorganized lives, which I might relate to, and set the goals we need and use the planner how we need to use it. So, Kristina, what is the first tip?
The first tip always goes along with the first thing that everybody asks, which is, how do I do this exactly how they say to do it? It seems very overwhelming. So it's less about where to start, and know that you can start small and where to bend and break the ruls. So you don't have to do everything that the planner system says.
Okay, so let's unpack that. So what are some things that you think would be good to either start with or to just jettison at the start? You know, ideally you're using the whole system, but if I'm getting started, what are some good ways to get started?
Some of the other tips we'll go into a little bit deeper, but one of the ways that I recommend to bend and break the rules is that instead of starting with the ideal week, start with an ideal day. Typically a work day, maybe if you are a 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday, or however a normal day looks for you. Start with that, because the ideal week for people with ADHD or dealing with chronic overwhelm or feel very disorganized and can't get out of it, going an entire week can be incredibly overwhelming. So it's taking the concept of the ideal week and narrowing that down. And the benefit of doing that is that it actually can help you then go into setting up your rituals.
When I'm going, okay, I'm going to set my ideal day, because I agree, an ideal week is 7 days. That's a lot to do, and every day is so different. Is the idea here that this is a day that I can just kind of run at any time? Or am I going, okay, this week I want to have, like, my ideal Monday looks like this. Does that make sense as a question?
It does. So basically what we'll do is we'll walk through, it could be the ideal Monday, or it could just be an ideal work day.
Okay.
the goal is for us to do a couple of things. One is to show you what type of day you could have and where you are, how far or close you are to it. And then also show you how you can start breaking down how to create habits or rituals. And so that helps you visualize where you want to go and how close you are. Because honestly, most people are actually not that far from their ideal.
Interesting.
And so then we start creating like what needs to be true and what friction points or challenges, roadblocks, whatever phrase you use. I use friction points you have currently that is potentially blocking you from getting there.
That's really interesting. Do I agree for myself that I am not that far from my ideal? I don't know. Sometimes.
Yeah, and that's okay, right? And that's okay to say like, you know what? And your ideal can change. And that's a part of the bending and breaking, right? Is that sometimes people see the ideal week activity and they get very overwhelmed, not just with the 7 days, but also thinking like, I can't keep that up forever. And that's okay. Like, you're not supposed to. Like, I encourage people every quarter, you've got seasonal changes, kid changes, summer, winter, everything. And so that's a perfect time to review how your day flows.
What do you think the root of disorganization is? Like, why is someone disorganized?
So I wish I was a neuroscientist.
Sure.
I am not. I will not even claim to be. However, as somebody with ADHD specifically and dyslexia, I can tell you that to me, it's less about why somebody's not organized and more about how the world is built for one specific type of brain. So there are different ways to be organized, right? But right now, a lot of times when we're moving through the world, organization in a home or in a backpack or in a planner or on somebody's desktop looks different. And their buildings and spaces are built based on the idea that organization with file folders and bookshelves looks a certain way. And I'll give you an example. So in my house, I've got ADHD and I'm a single parent and I've got a kiddo. We would get to the front of the house every day. None of us had socks on to put on our shoes, right? So we then go back into our rooms, search around for socks, and then now we're late after we worked so hard to be on time. The house is not necessarily built for what I'm about to say. So instead of keeping socks in the bedroom, socks are by the door now. So it's like, that's where the shoes are. Shoes are kept by the door. Socks are kept with shoes. So when you're ready to go, you don't have to go back into your room and then forget your purse and have to go back in. You forgot your keys. They're in a spot. And so to me, it's about learning how to work with your brain to figure out what organization looks like for you and less about why am I disorganized. And so it's giving yourself the approval and support to say, and permission really, to say, what does organization look like for me?
I love that. I love the phrase, socks are by the door now. That's you should just put that on like a shirt. Yeah. Like, this is my worldview. We live in a world where socks are by the door. Yes. Either you're a sock door person or you're not.
Yeah.
I love all that. Let's keep pushing through. We could talk about this all day. What's our second tip?
That sometimes when you stop the planner, so say you use it for a while, and then shame sets in because you haven't picked it up in a week.
Oh, I don't know anything about this.
No, nobody does. Nobody does. Nobody's ever experienced this. And so you sit there, or the opposite is true, is where you feel you haven't had it for a couple of days and you're fine. No issues. And then you start struggle busing, right? So the other tip is understanding that when the shame of stopping sets in, knowing that the planner is there to provide guardrails, right? So that you don't have to keep all of the pressure on your executive functioning in your brain to remember, to walk through the rituals, or pursue your goals. It's there as a reminder to push you along so you can be present in your life. That's really a big part of what the planner is for me. And so giving yourself permission and understanding that you don't have to shame yourself into opening the planner again. It's okay.
But Christina, who am I
Yeah, if you're
if
not
I'm not
shaming.
spending all this time shaming myself?
I feel like a mental health professional can support you.
I don't know if you know, I did a whole podcast on shame, like a series.
Yeah.
So this is a particular avenue for me. So let's move on to number 3 to help us to help disorganized minds or self-identified non-planner people or anybody struggling with ADHD. It's sort of anybody who's afraid of a planner or struggles with planner. What's our third tip to help us succeed here?
Tip number 3 would be the top 3 places to start are, and I've heard these often on this podcast, which I agree with, which daily pages, first step, right? Like just getting stuff together, identifying your schedule, going through the daily pages, understanding how they can support each other from day to day. The next thing is weekly preview. And this is a big thing for people who are disorganized, have chronic overwhelm, ADHD, is the weekly preview actually helps you visualize your schedule and your week. So you feel like even if you don't have as much control over your schedule, maybe you don't set your appointments, whatever, it gives you the ability to see what's coming. And so you can prepare. And that actually can help reduce anxiety and support your nervous system and all of those wonderful things. The third thing, which I do a little bit differently with coaching, is we talk about rituals a lot, right? Rituals versus habits. The third thing I encourage people to do is talk about evening ritual. Because setting up yourself for success in the evening is how you set up your morning and the following day. Yeah. So if you want to get up earlier, if you want to go to the gym, if you want to do all these things, going to bed at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning is going to be a real challenge.
Sure.
So, and I mean, I am one of those people where I do revenge bedtime, right? Like I've got work, I've got a kid, I've got volunteering, I've got all these things. And so when I need to remember, I benefit from remembering that if I pursue my evening ritual, I will be able to continue those activities that I enjoy.
That was 3, I believe. What is our 4th tip?
4th tip is understanding the difference between habits and rituals. Y'all have done some great episodes and content around habits and rituals. The biggest thing for people that I work with who have ADHD or ADHD, which is autism and ADHD, is habits are associated with sameness. And for some people that can be great. For ADHDers, sameness equals boring. Mm-hmm. So our brains are activated by 4 things: novelty, competition, passion / interest, and urgency. So once a habit is kind of like the same thing every day, it makes it so it's not enticing to do anymore and be really exhausting to be able to accomplish. So what we do is we focus on, that's why I love the ritual wording with full focus, is because rituals are all about the intention. So I tell people I liken it to skincare. You could have a 5 to 8 step skincare regimen, but if the intention is every day to wash the day off and just to moisturize, if you don't have the energy, or what we sometimes in the ADHD world call the spoons, to do the task, think about the intention. Is it just washing face and moisturizing, and that's enough for the day? And knowing that tomorrow you could have enough spoons and add maybe one more step in your skincare so you can creep back up again. It doesn't mean that the habit was not completed. It means that you're focusing on the intention behind the action.
I've always loved the term ritual,
right,
in this way. And in fact, to reference and harken back to Courtney back in the day, that vocabulary is so important to so much of this. And I remember when she said that she stopped calling her like evening shutdown, you're like on the couch or whatever, and you're like, okay, I got to do my chores for tonight, could be dishes and, blah, 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 blah. And she started referring to it as a reset, and I feel that so deeply. I still, I'll get up and be like, I gotta start the reset, and it feels so much better because it feels more optimistic. Because even if today was bad or I messed everything up today, tomorrow's a new day, and I'm setting it up now. I really it's the smallest tip, but it has made a world of difference in our house. So, yeah.
And that's a great way to think about it too, is because it really turns it from something that's like boring and exhausting and you feel like you're wasting your life doing it, into I'm preparing for the future. Like I'm supporting myself, which is a very different mindset.
Yeah, it feels much better than I'm a piece of garbage.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's exactly true. Like 100%. Yeah.
Tip number 5 to keep us on the right track. This is obviously for anyone who has who wants to be using their planner and accomplishing their goals. So we just need there's some little pruning or a little help to help empower us. So what's our 5th tip?
The 5th tip is understanding that you need goals to activate your brain. Need goals that do activate your brain. So that's one of the things that I do appreciate about the full focus system, is that walking through the different aspects of goal setting includes rewards, right? We take an additional step where we remind ourselves that rewards aren't just about the end, because sometimes we think that we have to get the goal perfectly done in order to get that reward. And instead, what I work on with my clients is that we identify milestones and we set dates to provide that urgency for ADHDers who need that type of activation. And then we have rewards along the way. So if you hit a milestone, you either get part of a reward or we identify what you could give yourself. And I have a client who runs a telehealth business, and a part of her reward system was every time she hits a milestone, she takes a half a day off during that week.
Nice.
Which was super difficult for her because,
Sure, she's building a business.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's got 50 employees or however many. And so it's hard for her. However, that has been the most rejuvenating thing. She goes to work out, she hangs out with her kiddo who's going to college. Like that has been a reward that she looks forward to. So it activates her brain to take action.
This is so interesting because I thought what you were going to say is that you were going to... No, this is great. I thought you were going to talk about the exciting element of the smarter goal when you first started saying this. Because what I find, and I'm not saying, when I say I find, you can really take that with the largest grain of salt or smallest grain of salt, whatever.
I don't know. Yeah.
What I find is that people really struggle with the reward. I know that from my personal experience.
Yes.
I know that, and I don't want to sell anybody out, but I know some very prominent planner users who also struggle, who I've had conversations with about the rewards. So now I have to ask, what kind of rewards are you helping develop with your clients or for yourself? I'm like, really, this is very fascinating.
Yeah. So somebody had this question in the Full Focus group recently, and asking like, how do I figure out a reward that's not just buying myself something? Obviously, that is an option, right? But if you're looking beyond monetary purchases or anything like that, I always ask people to think about, if you had an abundance of time, what would you do with it? Sometimes people are like, oh, I would spend more time with my mom. There's your reward. Like you get to a certain point. First of all, let's make that a goal, Barbara. Like you spending more time with your mom needs to be a relationship goal. We'll put that on pause for now. But it's like, if that's a part of what you want to do, then we'll make that a goal. So think about in the terms of time. What would you do with it if you had more flexibility? And start giving yourself those rewards of time. And the other thing too is when it comes to the gift of your space. So if you don't feel comfortable in your space, what would need to be true for you to feel comfortable in your space? Maybe you hate your desk chair and you hate your office because you hate your desk chair. This is a recent thing for me. And I'm like, okay.
I hate my desk chair.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, if I hit this certain milestone within my goals, I know that I'm going to need a desk chair for X, Y, and Z for writing a new chapter of my book. Okay, if I hit these goals, I'm buying a new desk chair and now I'm sitting in it right now. So yes, that was a purchase, but also it was one of those things that helps me be in my space and helps me be more comfortable.
You know, I love all of this. This is like great. Could be its own episode in of itself. And if we do it, we'll call you back. So often I think people go, the reward is that I got there.
Yeah, that's not enough.
So, well, no, I think that's correct. But I would say, we're doing an Honesty Planet visit here to reference Michael Hyatt, actually. I would say that probably half of my goals do not have rewards attached to them. Partially, not necessarily intentionally, but because when I did it, I'm like, oh, I can't think of this. And so I went to the next one, and that one may have had a reward. And then it's 3 months later, and I just never thought of it. And who knows how that goal is going. But so this is all this is all great. I love this.
Yeah. So I always focus on time and space. What do you need to feel more comfortable and secure? And what would you do if you had a more abundance of time?
I think that we might have one bonus tip or more. I don't even know.
Yeah.
This is the behind the curtain talk here. Christina came with like 4,000 ideas. So
always. I could talk for
So
days.
I was like, let's say 5 and then we'll add bonus tips. So what do we have? We got someone else?
So the bonus tip is when you are wanting to achieve goals, especially as somebody who is an overwhelmed, unorganized, you are needing dopamine, which is the happy chemical in your brain. A lot of ADHDers have this in deficiency. And so we have to think through how to activate your brain. And we do that by the 4 things of urgency, novelty, passion/interest, and competition. So if you might start off in your goals super excited because they're new, they're novel. So we also have to think long-term is what are other ways to activate your brain along the way, especially for a long-term goal? What are some ways that you can supply urgency? And those are for what milestones are for. Consistent novelty, maybe a little competition with accountability buddies or something along those lines, which are always great. And so that's the extra tip that I always encourage people to do when they're creating their goals, especially after taking a hiatus from goal setting.
Can we play that out? Let's talk about a fitness goal, actually, because I do think that fitness goals, we just did an episode on them. I think they're very specifically, I'm not saying they're more difficult than others, but almost everybody has one, and they're different in their own way. So let's say I want to run, I'm not going to say a marathon. Let's say that I want to run a 10K let's say we've done all the right things. It's in 6 months or something. What kind of milestones? How am I going to find these dopamine hits along the way?
So there are different types you could do. So say you currently can already run a 5K.
Okay.
So let's say you're there. So what you're going to do if you want to be able to run a 5K in the next 10K in the next 6 months. So we're going to set milestones for potentially stamina, as well as your habit of consistently running, and probably dietary. So what I would do, honestly, is set aside time to say, what would your rest day look like after you've hit certain milestones? What's something fun that you would want to do? I'm not talking cheat days because, binging or whatever. I'm talking like, is there something that you've been avoiding doing because you are so focused on this particular thing? Because we're also trying to prevent burnout, right? Where you only focus on this one thing for a while and then you get sick of it and then you're done. Running is a great exercise. So we're going to set up times where it's like, what would you like to do on a day off once you hit this milestone? What are some things that how you could make this goal more fun when it comes to food? Because there's a lot of things that you have to do when you're doing a thing like that and you're having a fitness goal, right? You need to make sure you have enough protein. What are some things you can do to support it? Is there a membership you can join? Is there an accountability group that you could make time for when it comes to nutrition and running? Those are the types of approaches I would start off with when it comes to rewards and milestones along the way.
So I want to talk about, just real quick, how with your clients or in your own life, how you might tackle what is the limiting belief, of course, which is I am not a planner person, right? That's literally like verbatim. I'll go, hey, I've got this plan. They'll go, I'm not a planner person. Like that, I don't know why. It's like this universal thing. How have you tackled that, or clients tackle it, or how might you recommend people take a stab at it? Because I think a lot of people who say that, like, they kind of look over and they go like, but I want to be.
No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
So how I usually work on that, I'll talk about what I did for myself briefly, and then talk about what I do with my clients. So for me, I was one of those ADHDers who had 17,000 different planners, digital, physical, all of it. And what set it apart for Full Focus is that there was an actual system and support network. You're not doing this alone. And so honestly, being able to go from trying to figure it out on my own, to having a group that is there and can interact. The Facebook group is specifically what I'm talking about. Was a game changer for me. They are. It is, yeah. Especially for encouragement and ideas. So that was a game changer for me. And then moving into, for people who have that mindset, is I always coach from a space of permission, and I ask them why. And 9 times out of 10, they also have had 1,000 different planners and they've tried different things and it just never stuck. And so they're like, I already have a calendar and a project system. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, so how do you feel about your life? And so I usually go down the road of, how do you want your life to look? And I say, the planner can help you get there, because it's more than that. It's goal setting, and it's creating the lifestyle that you've been wanting to have. And it can help support that along the way in small incremental ways that is not a massive lifestyle change. A lot of people that I work with, Nick, feel like they shouldn't have to have one. They should be able to remember everything.
Oh my gosh. We're going to talk about something real quick when this recording is over.
Okay. So they have that feeling, and especially for people with ADHD, they are redirected or corrected 20,000 times more often before they leave school than their neurotypical peers. So we have a tendency to beat ourselves up on feeling like we should be able to do all of these things on our own. And what I like to remind people is, why do you feel that way? Ask them that question, and then ask them if they think the most successful people in the world worry about what they're making for dinner next week. Those are things that are removed from lots of people's plates. So you have you can reduce the mental load.
Sure.
And so that's a lot of times what I ask people and what we talk through.
Well, this has all been so wonderful. I do want to talk about if perhaps it's through you or just general resources. I know you support the Full Focus Planner community. I love the Full Focus Planner community, but for somebody who is looking for, it could be generic or specific, any resources to go like, I think I might have ADHD or whatever. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to clean my house, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where might you point people?
So the first thing I would do if you think you have ADHD is I would go to chadd.org, which is chadd.org. And that can give you an understanding of ADHD for adults, teens, children. It's a wonderful resource. And the other one I like to recommend is ADDitude Mag, ADDitude.com. And that has a lot of wonderful resources and articles as well when it comes to ADHD, regardless of age.
Great.
And my information, of course, is neurodivergentventures.com. You can find me in the Facebook group for Full Focus too, often talking about ADHD and using Full Focus systems. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram and TikTok as ADHD Coach Kristina.
There you go. It's perfect. Well, Christina, thank you so much for joining us and walking us through. And that was basically a final thought. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back through that music, so I'm just going to close out the show, and I'm going to say thank you for joining us here on Focus on This. This is the most productive podcast on the internet. That is a fact. We did a study. So please share it with your friends, and be sure to join the Full Focus Planner community on Facebook so you can benefit from the creativity and encouragement of people chasing big goals just like you. And we will be here next week with Ken and Marissa for another great episode. And so we'll be here next week with another great episode. So until then, stay focused.